The shrill scream pierced the night air as Connor Briggs hurried down the sidewalk, his 5-year-old daughter Lily's small hand clutched tightly in his own. He'd only stepped out to grab milk from the corner store before it closed a simple errand that should have taken 10 minutes. Now, they were unwitting witnesses to what appeared to be a violent confrontation in the parking lot of Rosie's diner. "Daddy," Lily's voice quavered as she pressed against his leg, "why is that lady crying?" Connor instinctively pulled Lily behind him, shielding her from the scene unfolding 30 feet away. A man in an expensive suit had backed a woman against a car, his finger jabbing toward her face as she tried to back away. Even from this distance, Connor could see the woman's tear-streaked face illuminated by the flickering neon sign overhead. "Stay right here, sweetie," Connor said, guiding Lily to sit on a nearby bench. "Don't move, okay? Daddy needs to help someone." Lily nodded solemnly, clutching her stuffed rabbit closer to her chest. Connor approached cautiously, his heart hammering against his ribs. He wasn't looking for trouble. God knows he had enough of his own, but he couldn't just walk away. "Is everything all right over here?" Connor called out, his voice steadier than he felt. The man spun around, revealing an expensively tailored suit and a face contorted with rage. "Mind your own business," he spat. The woman used the distraction to step away, wiping tears from her face. "It's fine," she said automatically, though her trembling voice suggested otherwise. "Please, just go." Connor hesitated. Even in the dim light, he could see the red mark forming on her cheek. "Madam, are you sure you're okay?" She said it's fine, the man snarled, taking a threatening step toward Connor. "This is between me and Jenna." Connor recognized the type immediately wealthy, entitled, and used to intimidating people to get his way. The kind of man who thought his money made him untouchable. Connor had worked for plenty of them over the years, installing their luxury fixtures, repairing their designer kitchens, then being treated like he was invisible once the job was done. "I think the lady needs some space," Connor said calmly, standing his ground despite being acutely aware of his worn jeans and faded work shirt, a stark contrast to the other man's perfectly pressed attire. "You have no idea who you're dealing with," the man hissed, his breath reeking of expensive scotch. "Do you know who I am?" "Someone who's about to leave," Connor replied, glancing toward Lily to make sure she was still on the bench. She was watching wide-eyed, clutching her rabbit. The man Jenna's ex, Connor presumed, laughed coldly. "I'm Marcus Ellsworth. I could buy and sell you 1,000 times over." Connor didn't flinch. "Good for you. Now back away from the lady." Marcus's face darkened. "You're making a big mistake." "The only mistake would be continuing this conversation while there's a frightened woman and my 5-year-old daughter watching," Connor replied, his voice dropping lower. "Walk away. Now." For a moment, Marcus seemed ready to escalate, but then his eyes flicked to Lily on the bench, and something, perhaps self-preservation or a shred of decency, made him reconsider. "This isn't over," he snapped at Jenna before stalking toward a gleaming black Mercedes parked nearby. He jabbed a finger toward Connor. "And you'll regret this." Connor watched silently as Marcus sped away, tires squealing against the asphalt. Only when the taillights had disappeared did he turn to the woman. "Are you hurt? Should I call someone?" She shook her head, composing herself with visible effort. "No, I'm okay, thank you." Her voice was soft but steady, her accent hinting at an expensive education. "That was brave of you. Most people would have walked away," Connor shrugged. "Most people should be better than that." He glanced back at Lily, who was now swinging her legs on the bench, apparently satisfied that the scary part was over. "I should get back to my daughter." "Of course," Jenna said quickly. "I'm sorry you both had to see that." "Nothing to apologize for," Connor replied. He hesitated, then added, "Do you have someone to call? Somewhere safe to go?" She nodded, brushing a strand of auburn hair from her face. "Yes, I'll be fine, really." "Okay then." Connor gave her a brief nod. "Take care of yourself." He turned to leave, but her voice stopped him. "Wait, what's your name?" "Connor," he answered, turning back. "Connor Briggs." She smiled, and for the first time he noticed how striking her features were: warm brown eyes, high cheekbones, and a gentle curve to her lips that even tear-streaked makeup couldn't diminish. "Thank you, Connor Briggs," she said softly. "I'm Jenna Kaplan." He nodded politely, then returned to Lily, who immediately bombarded him with questions about the scared lady and the mean man. Connor answered as honestly as he could while sparing her the harsher details. As they walked home to their small apartment, Connor couldn't help glancing back, but Jenna Kaplan had already disappeared into the night. He had no way of knowing that their paths would cross again, or that the woman he'd just defended was worth more than all the houses he'd ever worked on combined. The following morning, Connor was up before dawn, preparing Lily's lunch for kindergarten while sipping lukewarm coffee from a chipped mug. Their apartment was modest one-bedroom that Connor had given to Lily, while he slept on a pull-out couch in the living room. The place was clean but worn, much like the furniture they'd acquired through thrift shops and neighborhood giveaways. "Daddy, can I wear my princess dress to school?" Lily asked, emerging from her bedroom with her favorite purple dress already half pulled over her pajamas. "Nice try, kiddo," Connor smiled, helping her disentangle herself. "How about we save the princess dress for the weekend and wear regular clothes for school?" After dropping Lily off at kindergarten, Connor drove his aging pickup truck to his first job of the day, a bathroom remodel, in one of Portland's rapidly gentrifying neighborhoods. He'd built a decent reputation as a skilled handyman and carpenter, but work had been sporadic lately, and the bills were piling up faster than he could pay them. He was midway through installing a vanity when his phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Hernandez, their elderly neighbor who watched Lily after school on days when Connor worked late. "Emergency with my sister," the text read. "Can't watch Lily today. So sorry." Connor's stomach dropped. He had at least 4 more hours of work and no backup childcare. Since Rachel had left 3 years ago, walking out on both him and their 2-year-old daughter without so much as a goodbye note, he'd been constantly juggling work and parenting, with no family nearby to help. He called the school, explaining the situation and asking if Lily could stay in the after-school program just this once, even though they weren't enrolled. The administrator was sympathetic but firm the program was full, and without prior registration, they couldn't accommodate her. "I'll figure something out," Connor told his client, packing up his tools hastily. "I'll come back tonight to finish up, no extra charge." The client, a middle-aged woman who'd hired him based on a friend's recommendation, frowned. "This is the second delay this week, Connor." "I know, and I'm really sorry. It's just my childcare fell through and my daughter, I understand," she cut him off, though her tone suggested she didn't, not really. "But I need this bathroom finished by the weekend." "It will be," Connor promised, already calculating how many hours of sleep he could sacrifice to make it happen. As he drove to pick up Lily, his phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Is this Connor Briggs?" a woman's voice asked when he answered. "Yes, who's calling?" "This is Jenna Kaplan." From last night, outside Rosie's diner, Connor nearly missed a stop sign in surprise. "Oh yes, of course. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," she said quickly. "Actually, I was calling because, well, this might sound strange, but I wanted to thank you properly." "Would you and your daughter like to have dinner tonight?" "My treat," Connor hesitated. Under normal circumstances, he would politely decline. He barely knew this woman, after all, but with his childcare canceled and hours of work to make up later. "That's very kind of you," he said carefully. "But I have to work tonight. My regular babysitter had an emergency, so I need to pick up my daughter from school now, then go back to finish a job after she's in bed." There was a pause on the line. "I could help," Jenna offered, surprising him again. "With your daughter, I mean. I know we just met, but I'm actually quite good with children. I volunteer at a children's literacy program." "That's really nice, or I could hire you," she continued, her tone brightening. "I actually need some work done at my place. A few shelves installed, a door that sticks. If you bring your daughter, she can play while you work, and I'll pay your regular rate plus dinner for both of you." Connor found himself torn. On one hand, this woman was essentially a stranger. On the other, she seemed genuinely kind, and the prospect of earning money while keeping Lily with him was tempting. "I'd need to finish my current job first," he said slowly. "Of course. How about you both come over around 6? I'll text you the address." As Connor hung up, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something unusual about Jenna Kaplan. Most people wouldn't be so quick to invite a stranger and his child into their home, especially after the volatile confrontation they'd witnessed. But there had been something in her voice and earnestness that made him want to trust her. When he picked up Lily from school, he explained they'd be visiting a new friend that evening. "The lady from last night?" Lily asked, surprisingly perceptive. "The one the mean man was yelling at." "That's right," Connor nodded, impressed by her memory. "Her name is Jenna, and she needs some help fixing things at her house." "Is she nice?" Connor thought about it. "I think so. She seemed nice." "Okay," Lily said, apparently satisfied with this assessment. "Can I bring Hoppy?" She held up her ever-present stuffed rabbit. "Of course you can," Connor smiled, ruffling her hair. The address Jenna texted turned out to be in West Hills, one of Portland's most exclusive neighborhoods. Connor double-checked the numbers as he drove slowly past immaculate lawns and imposing gates, feeling increasingly out of place in his battered pickup. "Are we lost, Daddy?" Lily asked, peering out the window at the mansions lining the street. "I don't think so, sweetie," Connor murmured, pulling up to a wrought iron gate that matched the address Jenna had given him. There was an intercom panel beside the gate, and as Connor rolled down his window to reach it, the gate began opening automatically. "She must have been watching for us," Connor said, more to himself than to Lily. The driveway curved through meticulously landscaped grounds before revealing a stunning modern home, all clean lines, expansive glass, and warm wood. It wasn't the largest house on the street, but it exuded quiet luxury. "Wow," Lily breathed. "Is this where a princess lives?" Connor chuckled nervously. "Something like that." Before they could reach the front door, it swung open and Jenna stepped out. Gone were the tear-streaked makeup and distress from the night before. Today, she looked polished but approachable in simple jeans and a soft blue sweater that brought out the warmth in her brown eyes. "You found it," she smiled, walking toward them. "I'm so glad you could come." "Your home is beautiful," Connor said, feeling suddenly conscious of his worn work clothes. He'd had time to change after picking up Lily, but his nice clothes weren't much better than his work ones. "Thank you," Jenna replied, then crouched down to Lily's level. "And you must be Lily." "Your dad told me you're 5 years old. Is that right?" Lily nodded, uncharacteristically shy. "This is Hoppy," she said, holding out her rabbit. "It's very nice to meet you, Hoppy," Jenna said solemnly, shaking the stuffed animal's paw. "I have some coloring books and puzzles inside if you'd like to play while your dad and I talk about the work he's going to do." Lily's eyes lit up, her shyness evaporating. "Do you have princess coloring books?" "I think I might," Jenna winked, standing up. "Come on in, both of you." The interior of Jenna's home was as impressive as the exterior, open and airy, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city below. The furnishings were elegant but comfortable, and Connor was surprised to see children's books neatly arranged on a lower shelf in the living room. "Do you have kids?" he asked, gesturing toward the books. Jenna shook her head. "No, but my sister has twins. They visit often." She led them to a cozy sitting area where art supplies were already laid out on a child-sized table. "I hope this is okay for Lily." "It's perfect," Connor said, watching as his daughter immediately settled in, reaching for colored pencils and paper. Jenna turned to him with a smile. "Can I get you something to drink? Water, coffee, tea?" "Water would be great, thanks." As she moved toward the kitchen, Connor took the opportunity to look more closely at his surroundings. The house wasn't just beautiful, it was clearly the home of someone with significant wealth. The furniture, the artwork on the walls, even the subtle scent of an expensive candle burning somewhere, everything spoke of a life very different from his own. "Here you go," Jenna said, returning with a glass of water. "So, about those repairs." Over the next hour, Jenna showed Connor around the house, pointing out various small projects, a cabinet door that needed realignment, built-in bookshelves she wanted installed in the study, a closet door that stuck. None of them were particularly urgent or complex, which only confirmed Connor's suspicion that this was more about thanking him than actual need for repairs. "I know what you're thinking," Jenna said as they returned to the living room, where Lily was happily coloring. "That I don't really need all this work done." Connor raised an eyebrow. "The thought had crossed my mind." Jenna smiled, a hint of mischief in her eyes. Well, you're not entirely wrong, but the work is real, and I would actually appreciate having it done. The thank you part is the timing and the dinner I promised you both. As if on cue, the doorbell rang, and Jenna excused herself to answer it. She returned moments later, followed by a delivery person carrying several bags of food. I hope Italian is okay, she said as the delivery person set the bags on the dining table. I ordered a variety, including some kid-friendly options. Over dinner, Connor found himself relaxing despite the surroundings. Jenna was easy to talk to, asking thoughtful questions about his carpentry work and listening with genuine interest to his answers. She was wonderful with Lily, drawing her out of her shell by asking about her favorite books and activities at school. So, Connor said as they finished eating, I have to ask, what do you do? This house, the neighborhood. Jenna took a sip of her water. I run a tech company. We develop educational software for children with learning disabilities. Wow, Connor said, impressed. That sounds rewarding. It is, she agreed, her eyes lighting up. I started it 8 years ago after my nephew was diagnosed with dyslexia. The traditional educational tools weren't working for him, so I created something new. She shrugged modestly. It turned out to be something a lot of children needed. That's amazing, Connor said sincerely. Jenna smiled, then turned to Lily. Would you like to see something cool? I have a prototype of our newest program upstairs. Lily nodded enthusiastically, and they followed Jenna to a home office where a large touchscreen display dominated one wall. With a few taps, Jenna launched a colorful interactive program designed to make reading more accessible for struggling learners. This is incredible, Connor murmured as Lily giggled, moving animated letters around the screen to form words. It's still in development, Jenna explained, but early testing has been promising. Later, after putting Lily to bed in one of the guest rooms, just until you finish working, Jenna had insisted, Connor spent a couple of hours installing the bookshelves Jenna had mentioned. They worked well together, falling into an easy rhythm as Jenna handed him tools and held pieces in place. You're good at this, Connor observed as she precisely measured a shelf alignment. I used to help my dad with projects around the house, she explained. He believed everyone should know basic carpentry, regardless of gender or career aspirations. He sounds like a wise man. He was, Jenna said softly. He passed away 5 years ago. I'm sorry, Connor said, recognizing the familiar weight of grief in her voice. They worked in companionable silence for a while before Connor gathered the courage to ask the question that had been nagging at him all evening. So, about last night, that guy, Marcus. Jenna's hands stilled. My ex-fiancé. We broke up 6 months ago, but he's had trouble accepting it. He seemed volatile, she sighed, setting down the level she'd been holding. Marcus comes from a wealthy family, old money. He's not used to hearing no. When I ended our engagement, he didn't take it well. Was that the first time he'd gotten physical? Connor asked carefully. Yes, Jenna said firmly. And after last night, I've filed a restraining order. I should have done it sooner, but… She trailed off, shaking her head. Anyway, I'm handling it now, Connor nodded, not pressing further. They finished the bookshelves in silence, but it was a comfortable one, the kind shared between people who understand each other's boundaries. When Connor finally packed up his tools, it was past midnight. You should stay, Jenna said impulsively. It's late and Lily's already asleep. I have plenty of guest rooms, Connor hesitated. I don't want to impose. You wouldn't be, she assured him. Besides, it's the least I can do after you came to my rescue last night. Too tired to argue, Connor accepted, and Jenna showed him to a guest room near where Lily was sleeping. The bed was more comfortable than any he'd ever slept in, but despite his exhaustion, he found himself lying awake, thinking about Jenna Kaplan and her world that was so different from his own. The next morning, Connor woke to the sound of laughter. Following the noise, he found Jenna and Lily in the kitchen, making pancakes together. Lily was standing on a step stool, carefully pouring batter onto a griddle while Jenna supervised. Daddy, Lily exclaimed when she saw him. I'm making breakfast. I can see that, Connor smiled, his heart warming at the sight of his daughter's flour-dusted face and proud expression. Good morning, Jenna said, handing him a mug of coffee. I hope you slept well. Better than I have in years, Connor admitted, accepting the coffee gratefully. They ate breakfast together, and Connor found himself reluctant to leave when the time came. Over the past 24 hours, something had shifted between him and Jenna, a connection forming that he hadn't expected. "I was thinking," Jenna said, as Connor was loading his tools back into his truck. "The bookshelves look amazing, but I have a few other projects I'd love your help with. Would you be interested in coming back next weekend?" "I'd like that," Connor replied, surprised by how much he meant it. Over the next few weeks, a pattern developed. Connor would come to Jenna's house on weekends, often with Lily in tow, to work on various projects around the property. Sometimes the work was substantial, like building a pergola for the back garden, while other times it was simple maintenance that Jenna could have easily hired a service company to handle. They both understood that the work was partly a pretext, an excuse to spend time together while navigating the growing attraction between them. For Connor, who had been solely focused on survival and raising Lily since his wife left, the relationship with Jenna was unexpected but welcome. She was kind, intelligent, and remarkably down-to-earth despite her wealth. Jenna, for her part, found in Connor something she'd never experienced with Marcus or any of her previous partners, a man who valued her for who she was, not what she had. The fact that he'd stood up for her when she was vulnerable, without knowing anything about her status or wealth, spoke volumes about his character. Lily, too, had grown attached to Jenna, often asking during the week when they would visit Miss Jenna's castle again. Jenna had introduced Lily to gardening, setting up a small plot in her backyard where the little girl could plant flowers and vegetables. She treated Lily with respect and genuine affection, never talking down to her or treating her as an afterthought. One evening, after Lily had fallen asleep watching a movie in Jenna's meteor room, Connor and Jenna sat on the patio, watching as the sun set over Portland. "Can I ask you something?" Jenna said, breaking the comfortable silence. "Of course." Lily's mother, "What happened there?" "You don't talk about her much." Connor took a deep breath. It was still painful to discuss even 3 years later. "Her name was Rachel. We met young, got married at 22. When Lily was born, Rachel seemed happy at first, but then she started staying out late, coming home smelling like alcohol and other men's cologne." He paused, the memories still raw. "When Lily was 2, Rachel left. No warning, no note, just gone. The last I heard, she was in California with some guy she met at a bar." "I'm so sorry, Connor," Jenna said softly, reaching for his hand. "It was hard," he admitted. "But in some ways it was almost a relief. The marriage had been broken for a long time before she left." The hardest part was explaining to Lily why her mommy wasn't coming home. "You've done an amazing job with her," Jenna said, squeezing his hand. "She's incredible, smart, kind, confident. That's because of you." Connor smiled, grateful for her understanding. "What about you?" "You mentioned the broken engagement with Marcus, but were there others before him?" Jenna nodded, leaning back in her chair. "One serious relationship in college that ended when he couldn't handle my success. Then Marcus, who I thought was different." She sighed. "We met at a charity function. He was charming, successful in his own right. But once we were engaged, things changed. He became controlling, questioning my decisions about the company, trying to isolate me from friends who didn't meet his approval." "Red flags," Connor murmured. "Exactly. I broke it off after he suggested I should consider stepping down as CEO once we were married to focus on our family. When I refused, he showed his true colors." She shook her head. "The night you intervened was the first time he'd found me since the breakup. He'd been drinking, said he wanted to talk, but when I refused to reconsider, he snapped." Connor's jaw tightened at the memory. "Has he bothered you since?" "No," Jenna said. "The restraining order seems to be working. His family has a reputation to protect. They wouldn't want a public scandal." They sat in silence for a moment before Connor spoke again. "Jenna, I need to ask, are you sure about this? About us?" He gestured between them. "Our worlds are very different. I'm a single dad who sleeps on a pull-out couch and counts pennies to make rent. You're—" He trailed off, looking at the expansive property around them. Jenna turned to face him fully. "Connor, do you know what I see when I look at you? I see a man who puts his daughter first always. A man who stepped in to help a stranger without thought for himself. A man who takes pride in his work and treats others with respect regardless of their status. She took his hand in both of hers. The money, the house, those things aren't me. They're just things. Connor looked into her eyes and saw the sincerity there. Slowly, he leaned forward until their foreheads touched. "I'm falling for you, Jenna Kaplan," he whispered. "Good," she replied with a smile, "because I fell for you the moment you stood between me and Marcus in that parking lot." Their first kiss was gentle, a promise of something deeper to come. As they pulled apart, both smiling, neither noticed the small face peeking through the doorway before disappearing back inside with a satisfied grin. Over the following months, their relationship deepened. Connor was initially hesitant to integrate their lives too quickly for Lily's sake, but his daughter had other ideas, constantly asking when they could visit Jenna or when Jenna could come over to their apartment. "Your place is so tiny, Daddy," Lily observed after Jenna's first visit to their apartment. "Miss Jenna had to sit on the floor to play games with me." "And did Miss Jenna complain about sitting on the floor?" Connor asked, curious about his daughter's perception. Lily considered this. "No," she said finally. "She said she liked our home because it was cozy and had pictures of me everywhere." "That's because Miss Jenna cares about people, not things," Connor explained, proud of both his daughter's observation and Jenna's response. The disparity in their financial situations remained a sensitive subject for Connor. He refused to let Jenna pay for everything, insisting on contributing what he could when they went out. For her part, Jenna was careful not to overwhelm him with extravagant gestures, understanding his pride and independence. 6 months into their relationship, as they were having dinner at Jenna's house, Lily made an announcement that caught both adults off guard. "I think we should live here," she declared, casually reaching for her milk. "Daddy's bed is in the living room at our house, but here he could have a real bedroom, and I could have my garden all the time." Connor nearly choked on his water. "Lily, that's not, we can't just, why not?" Lily asked with the straightforward logic of a 5-year-old. "We're here all the time anyway, and Daddy, you smile more when we're with Miss Jenna." Connor looked helplessly at Jenna, who was trying not to laugh. "Well," Jenna said carefully, "that's something your dad and I would need to talk about privately, Lily. Moving in together is a big decision for grown-ups." Lily considered this. "Okay, but don't take too long deciding. I already know which room I want." After Lily was asleep, Connor and Jenna sat in the living room, both still processing the child's unexpected suggestion. "I'm so sorry about that," Connor began, running a hand through his hair. "Kids have no filter." "Don't apologize," Jenna replied, curling her legs under her on the couch. "It's actually been on my mind too." "Really?" Connor looked surprised. "Really," she confirmed. "I know it's only been 6 months, but it feels right, doesn't it? The three of us together." Connor couldn't deny it. The time they spent together as a family had been the happiest of his life. Still, doubts lingered. "I don't want to be dependent on you, Jenna. I need to pull my own weight." "I understand that," she said, taking his hand. "What if we approach it differently?" "I've been thinking about expanding the educational software division of my company, creating more hands-on learning tools. We'd need someone with carpentry skills to build prototypes, test durability." Connor raised an eyebrow. "Are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering you a partnership," Jenna corrected. "Your skills, combined with my tech knowledge, we could create something amazing together, professionally and personally." The idea was appealing, a way to contribute meaningfully while building something with Jenna. "I'd want to keep some of my regular clients too," he said slowly. "I've built relationships with them." "Of course," Jenna nodded. "We'll figure out a balance that works." They talked late into the night, addressing practical concerns and deeper fears. By morning, they had a tentative plan. Connor and Lily would move in, but Connor would contribute to household expenses from his earnings. He would split his time between his existing clients and the new venture with Jenna, ensuring he maintained his independence while building their shared future. 2 weeks later, Connor and Lily moved into Jenna's home. The transition was smoother than any of them expected, perhaps because they had already been spending so much time together. Lily was overjoyed to have her own room, which Jenna helped her decorate with a garden theme, and Connor found himself adapting quickly to their new living arrangement. Their professional collaboration proved successful as well. Connor's practical knowledge of how children actually interacted with physical objects complemented Jenna's technical expertise perfectly. Together, they developed a line of interactive building blocks that integrated with Jenna's software, creating a learning system that bridged digital and physical play. 6 months after moving in together, Connor took Lily on a special shopping trip. "What are we buying, Daddy?" she asked as they entered a small jewelry store in downtown Portland. "Something very important," Connor replied, his stomach fluttering with nerves. "I'm going to ask Jenna to marry me." Lily's eyes widened. "Really? Will she be my mom then?" "Only if she wants to be," Connor said carefully. "And only if that's okay with you." "It's very okay with me," Lily declared. "I love Miss Jenna. She never yells and she teaches me things and she makes you happy." Connor smiled, his heart full. "She makes me very happy, and so do you, kiddo." With Lily's enthusiastic input, Connor selected a ring modest by the standards of Jenna's usual jewelry, but beautiful in its simplicity, with a single diamond set in rose gold. That evening, after Lily was in bed, Connor led Jenna to the garden pergola they had built together during those early weeks of their relationship. He had decorated it with fairy lights and flowers, creating a magical atmosphere in the cool evening air. "What's all this?" Jenna asked, her eyes shining in the soft light. "I wanted to bring you to the place where I first realized I was falling in love with you," Connor said, taking her hands in his. "We were installing the crossbeam, and you were handing me tools and talking about your vision for the garden. I looked down and saw you standing there, with sawdust in your hair and that determined look on your face, and I just knew." Jenna's eyes filled with tears. "I remember that day. You were so focused, so careful with your work. I thought about how different you were from anyone I'd ever known, how real you were." Connor took a deep breath, then dropped to one knee, pulling the small box from his pocket. "Jenna Kaplan, you came into our lives unexpectedly, but now I can't imagine a future without you. You accept me as I am, you love my daughter like your own, and you make me believe in second chances. Will you marry me?" "Yes," Jenna whispered without hesitation, pulling him to his feet and into her arms. "1,000 times yes." As Connor slid the ring onto her finger, a small voice called from the patio door. Did she say yes? They turned to see Lily in her pajamas, clutching Hoppy and watching expectantly. "Come here, you," Jenna laughed, wiping happy tears from her cheeks. "Yes, I said yes." Lily ran to them, and Connor lifted her up, bringing the three of them together in a tight embrace. "We're going to be a real family," Lily announced with satisfaction. "We already are," Connor corrected gently, looking from his daughter to his fiancée. "The paperwork is just catching up with reality." 1 year later, they married in a simple ceremony in the garden of their home, for it had truly become their home, filled with evidence of all three of their lives intertwined. Connor's handcrafted furniture sat alongside Jenna's artwork, while Lily's drawings and projects were displayed proudly throughout the house. Their company, now called Bright Build Learning, had become a leader in inclusive educational tools, combining Connor's craftsmanship with Jenna's technological innovation. Connor no longer needed to take on extra jobs to make ends meet, though he occasionally still helped out longtime clients more out of friendship than necessity. As for Marcus, he had eventually moved to New York after his family's investment firm transferred him a move that many suspected was designed to distance him from the embarrassment of his behavior. The restraining order had never needed to be enforced, as he seemed to understand that Jenna had moved on completely. On their first anniversary, Connor presented Jenna with a handcrafted jewelry box, its lid inlaid with a design of 3 intertwined trees. "It's beautiful," Jenna murmured, tracing the pattern with her fingertip. "Lily helped design it," Connor explained. "She said the big tree is me, the medium tree is you, and the small tree is her." "Perfect," Jenna smiled. "A family portrait." Later that evening, as they sat on the patio watching the sunset, now a cherished ritual, Jenna turned to Connor with a mysterious smile. "I have an anniversary gift for you too," she said, handing him a small wrapped package. Inside was a tiny pair of baby booties and a note that simply read, "Arriving in 7 months." Connor's face transformed from confusion to wonder as understanding dawned. "You're pregnant," he whispered. Jenna nodded, tears of joy brimming in her eyes. Lily's going to be a big sister. Connor pulled her into his arms, overwhelmed with emotion. I never imagined my life could be this full, he said against her hair. From that night outside the diner to this moment, it feels like a dream. Not a dream, Jenna corrected, placing his hand on her still flat stomach. Just a different path than either of us expected. As they sat together, planning their future and marveling at the journey that had brought them together, both silently acknowledged the truth. Sometimes the most beautiful destinies begin in the most unexpected moments, like when a struggling single father stops to help a woman in distress, unaware that his act of kindness would transform not just her life, but his own as well.